It's time, it's 3 p.m, so we should get started. Let's switch to the camera. And hi, I'm Lucas, and this is the Untitled WebDev stream. For those that are new to the stream, this is basically just a stream about web development. We are going from zero to hero, basically. It's going from like the bare bones, HTML, CSS, and next will be JavaScript. And then we will be learning about all the libraries and frameworks that are out there and some good practices and how to use them and so on and so forth. But the idea is to help those that are not familiar with web development to get familiar with it. For example, if you have some kind of like project of your own, for example, you have a band and you want to have a website for your band, or you sell stuff and you want to have your own website, you can do it yourself with just like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's not like just a replacement to a company or someone that like already works with this, but at the same time, I want you to help. I want to help you create stuff with like web code. So the past two streams, the first one was just an introduction with the tools that you will need. This is the browser and the code editor. The next one was just HTML, the introduction to HTML. And today we will be seeing a language called CSS. That's like the second pillar of three pillars that you need to create a website. So basically, to create a good website, you need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We already saw HTML, so today we will be seeing CSS, right? At the beginning, we will start with where we left off. So that will be the same website we had in the past stream, and we will use that as a base and use CSS on top of that in order to make it prettier, basically. So, let's switch to the desktop. There. So, this is where we left off. This is like the best website. I just changed the image because this is kind of nicer. But yeah, that's pretty much the same. This is the code. One thing we could do now, I don't know if it will be good enough for the stream, but let's try it out. We can put the code editor on the left in order to always see the code, and put the browser on the right in order to always see the result of our code, right? So this is a pretty common practice when you have only one screen. Some of us developers generally have like a laptop or a computer with two screens. If you have a laptop, you use the screen of the laptop and an external screen. And if you have a computer, generally you have two screens. This is basically because it's like more comfy to have like the code editor full screen on one screen, and in the other screen you have the browser full screen. It's like more comfortable to work like that. But let's just, for the sake of this stream, let's use half a half. Okay, so this is the code for this website we have in here, right? It's just an HTML file with hello HTML in here. One thing that I forgot to mention on HTML that it will be good to have in here in order to have as a base for the like CSS and JavaScript as well, is that programming languages in general, this includes HTML, have a way of adding comments to the code. This is not like a commentarist in a sport or something like that. It's not like someone talking or something like that. It's more like you add a piece of text to the code that will not be used by the browser or anything like that. It's not like, for example, this text in here. It's more like a piece of text that you add in order to add some clarifications to you, or maybe if you are working with somebody else in the same website, clarifications for them as well. So for example, let's say that I don't know what this head element is. I can add a comment in here. Comments in HTML have a really weird format, but still I want to show you how it is. It's like this. I just noticed that settings ligatures. Let's switch it to false. I have enabled a setting on my code editor that basically connects some symbols. So for example, if I do like this hyphen in here, it looks like just a line, but is how it works for me, but it's not useful for a stream when you want to see the actual characters separated. So I just turned that function off. So going back to the stream, this is the format of a comment. It's kind of weird, but it's the way you add some stuff to the code that will not be rendered by the browser, right? So is this opening symbol, the same that you use in every HTML tag, an exclamation mark, and then a hyphen. And you close it by doing a hyphen again, and the symbol for closing in HTML. Inside of this space in here between this hyphen and this hyphen, you can write something like, for example, this is the header section of my website, right? And this is just useful for you as a developer or for your teammates if you are working with somebody else in order to add clarifications. Maybe you can add also, this is kind of useful maybe, to have like a comment in here saying like, I don't know, to do, add some more information in here, for example. And this will not be rendered, if we refresh the browser, will not be rendered by the browser. So it's not like in here we see that text that I wrote in here or in here. This is just useful for us developers, but I just wanted to show you in order to like be aware that you have a way of adding comments, right? To like comments to the code itself. So let's delete those for now. Now, the HTML, as explained in the first stream, is just like the, let's say, like the bones of our website. It's like the basic structure where everything will be built up, right? Without HTML, the website doesn't work at all. So we need HTML as a base, at least. But on top of that, we can work with another language called CSS. That is the one that we will tackle today. And CSS is basically a language that is focused mainly on the looks of the website. So that is, for example, the typography or the font that we use in here or in here, for example, or the size of things. We can change the size of this image, or the colors. For example, if we want, and that will be good, to have like a black background with white text, for example, we can do that. But every visual change we want to do to the basic tags, like this H1, for example, that is the title, or this A, that is the anchor for the link, or stuff like that. Every visual change we want to do to HTML, we do it from CSS, right? This other language. If you have this question, you might have it, like for example, what HTML means or what CSS means. I never clarify that because we generally just use the the abbreviation. If you wonder what that means, you can just ask and I will answer it, but it's just like the name we use. It's like nobody use the actual long name for those. If you go to Google and look for CSS tips, you just look for CSS. You don't use the actual long name, right? So, well, as we have this HTML file in here, I showed you previously in the previous stream, just like a tip of the iceberg on CSS, and I created a new tag in here called style, because we are working with the style of the website. And in here I show you some code that affected the typography of this. In here, just to like remind you, I started with just using this tag. So in CSS we need to this is kind of going ahead of myself, but whatever, we can look back. So like in CSS we need to say what's the thing that we want to change visually. So it's like we have this title in here, that's the H1, and this Facebook thing is actually a link, and this is an image or whatever. We need to tell CSS what's the thing that we want to change. In my case, I want to change the font used in the entire website, so I just can go ahead and say body, and that will affect this element body. So everything in here, So I use the curly brackets. I open here. The code editor, as soon as you open one, it closes it by itself in order to make it easier for you, but you actually need to close it later. And in here I say, for example, I want in the body, I want font, I think it is, font, yeah, family. So that's the family of fonts. The code editor again helps me in here and gives me like a lot of options that I could use directly, but I know already what I want to use. So in here I will say sans serif. This means basically getting rid of the lines, cutting the lines on this font. So you will see, like, save it, and in here refresh, boop, and now we have a different font. And I can, like, also, for example, say I want to have white text, right? So this is not as intuitive as I would like, because you will expect something like, for example, font color or something like that, but the actual name for this property is just color, and in here we can say white, the word white. So that's white. Save it. And the problem with this is that now everything is invisible. And why? Because, yeah, the text is white, but the background is white as well. So we can also change that and say, like, background color. And in here, let's say black, for example. Okay. Refreshing here. And now the background is far better. It's black with text in white, right? So this is just like the tip of everything, CSS in general. I just wanted to show you like a little bit of it. But basically, this is what's called inline styles or inline CSS, because we are putting all the styles of the elements of the website in the HTML itself. But it's kind of messy, right? If I want to change something in CSS, I need to, for example, let's say you have a website that is like super big, that has like lots of stuff. It's like you need to go to look in here for the styles and then go back in here in order to see if that's being affected or whatever. It's like super messy. So in order to avoid that, one good practice could be to have CSS in another place, have it like separately from the HTML in order to have like a better like check of that, right? So, hi Texas, I will tackle CSS this stream and maybe the next one, and after that I will be talking about JavaScript in general. So if you are good with CSS, you can just skip this, or maybe you can learn something new, I don't know. Let's get rid of the styles in here and move them somewhere else. I will like clarify it soon enough. So let's save this without the styles, and if we refresh, we go back to our original, right? So let's create a new file here. I can go ahead and press file, new file, or just click, press Ctrl N, and that creates like a new tab in here for me. I will paste the CSS. This looks kind of ugly. Let's make it there, and let's save it first, like Ctrl S. In the same folder we have the HTML file. So if this is hello HTML, we could do like hello dot, and as you can guess, CSS instead of HTML, right? So save it. So we have thanks, Kylie. I just checked the chat. I'm going back and forward between the chat and the stream, so I might get some slow answers, but yeah, thanks. So we have this CSS file, right? And we have the hello HTML file in here. We can get rid of the style tag for now. Save it. So we have the styles, we have the HTML. So we should see the changes in here, right? So we refresh and still nothing. That's because basically browsers don't download stuff automatically in general. So if we don't like tell the browser that it needs to use this hello CSS file, it will not use it automatically. It's not like he says, okay, we have hello HTML, so I load CSS automatically. That doesn't work like that. We need to tell the browser that we need to download that CSS file. Hi Vera. So let's try to link these styles with this HTML, right? The way of doing that, obviously, from the HTML standpoint, is to use yet another tag, right? So in here we use a tag that is called link. In here, the code editor does it for us, so it already is telling us like I want to link a CSS file. That's what I want to do. So link in here, enter. So this link tag, as the name implies, is like we want to link another thing to this HTML file. So we want to actually link the hello CSS to hello HTML. How we do that? Okay, I will call you. I didn't know, so I will call you Leo from now on. We can change it by doing, instead of style CSS in here, hello CSS, right? If we save it, hopefully, and refresh, now we have the styles applied. So if I remove this again, like remove it, save, we go back to the original website. If we paste it and save and refresh, we go back to the black with white text. So this is useful basically because now we can focus on, for example, just the styles, and we can forget about the HTML. And if we want to change something in the HTML, we just change it in this file. If we have everything together in the same file, it's kind of messy and hard to debug, because it's like when you have an issue, it's like, where is it? If it's visual, you know it's in CSS. If it's like something like a typo, for example, like instead of best with this B, I do with the other B, like, I don't know, like the best. If we have something like this, we are sure that that's coming from HTML. So, okay, let's refresh for now. Done. Now, one thing that I was thinking about the general process I go through when I want to create something new, like a website or a web app or whatever, is that, and it's the thing that I generally recommend, is besides the fact that you need to know the basics, like you need to know CSS, JavaScript, and HTML, that's why I'm like giving that first. Once you already know those, it's generally good to not start like just writing code. That's kind of like hard, because it's like if you start writing code, it's like, yeah, but what is the thing that you are creating? So my general recommendation is to go first to like a notepad or something like that, like not like the digital notepad, like a plain old notepad with a pencil, and just like draft the thing that you want to create. So for example, let's say let's use this app for now. So I generally use this web app called Gravity Designer to create the designs, but you can use like this same app, or I don't know, if you are comfy with Photoshop, or as I say, with a notepad and a pen, you can just use that. But I generally just start with the design, the mock of the thing that I want to create. So for example, now that I am thinking about it, maybe I don't want to create a website about the best postcards, at the example I provided in the second stream. I want to create a website for this stream itself, for the Untitled WebDev stream. So I can start, instead of just like writing, like going to the coding here and writing code, like for example, I don't know, Untitled WebDev stream or whatever, and just like start with the code. I can start with like the idea of the thing that I want to create, just like an illustration. Back at home in Argentina, I used to have like a whiteboard and some markers, and I did all the mockups and the designs in there first, like the idea of the thing that I wanted to create. And for example, I don't know, if I had a button, what that button does and stuff like that. And once I decided on like the general idea and feel of the website or the web app I wanted to create, I just went to the code. But just there, first I started with the idea of the thing I wanted to create. So because I now want to change this hello HTML into my like the Untitled WebDev stream website, I can go to an application like this one for design and just say like, okay, I want to, I don't know, let's do a rectangle in here and let's make it black because black is good. So I want to have a website just like with black background, and maybe I want to have let's say like in here it will be like the logo, for example, and maybe I want to keep like Untitled WebDev stream. I want to have a title, yes, with maybe a bigger size, and let's put it in here maybe, and yeah, like title, logo, and maybe some links. That will make some sense. So let's duplicate this and say like Twitch or YouTube, and these two will be links. Okay, so let's make it cuter. I don't know, like yeah, something like that. That will make some sense, right? We could like, I'm using a software because I besides I want to like show you in the screen, but I could like use just a piece of paper and a pen in order to draw this, right? But yeah, the general idea I want is like have a title, the logo, and the links, and yeah, like a black background for sure, because I respect my eyes. I like my eyes. White backgrounds makes my eyes hurt. I don't know yours, but yeah. So I have the idea I want, so I can go back now to the code and the website in here. So back, I'm looking at the body. I now want to create the website for Untitled WebDev stream, so let's change the title for that to Untitled WebDev stream and refresh. Yeah, that makes sense. I want to have a title in here, then this link, yep, this doesn't go in here, so get rid of it. And in here, instead of this image, I want to have the Untitled WebDev stream logo. So what is like, how do we proceed if we want to use an image of our own instead of using one that came from a website, right? Because this one is coming from Unsplash, but I want to have my own image in here. You could theoretically just like upload that image to a service like, I don't know, Instagram or Imgur or Facebook or whatever, but the thing is like, I want to use the image the same way and using this CSS file without having to upload it anywhere. So how we do that? Basically, let's go to downloads. Yeah, I have the logo in here, and this background will be useful as well. So let's select this and good, and let's go to the desktop, to the HTML file. This is like the folder where we have the hello HTML and hello CSS. So let's just paste those files in here. So now I have logo.svg. Yeah, we can have like an entire stream about SVGs. I love this format. It's like PNG or JPEG or whatever, but yeah. So we have the logo in here, and we have this background that we will use later. So we go back in here, and instead of using like this long URL, we do the same thing we did with hello CSS. So we can just put logo.svg. It's already auto-completed by the code editor. That's why I recommended VS Code so much, because it makes our lives far easier. But yeah. So we save this and we go back in here and we refresh, and the logo is gigantic. Yeah, we can make it smaller, don't worry, but for now let's just keep the idea. I don't care about how it looks because we will work on that from CSS. For now we just care about the structure, right? So let's focus just in HTML for now. So the idea was title, image. We have title, image. Now we need to have some links in here, so let's do that. Let's create like, I have it back, nope, so A, there. The first one is Twitch, so let's Twitch, and this is not, this should be the URL. I'm an asshole. So https l/Twitch, and this is Twitch, and we also want a link for YouTube, right? So let's do that. If I remember correctly, the stream was Untitled, WebDev stream, YouTube. I think it is the link I created for this. Let's check. Yeah, well, that's just the playlist, but let's YouTube playlist, let's say. Now refresh in here, and we have a really messy website for now, but we will go to like fix this as soon. Well, so for now we have the title, an image, and the two links. That's basically the idea we had. So I can close this for now because we will work with code right now. So my idea is to make it like, first I want to make this image smaller, right? Second, I want to make everything like centered. So I want to make it like in the middle of the page, similar to what I have in my website. So if we go to my website, this is kind of like smaller, right? So and it's in the middle, so it looks kind of okay. So I want to achieve the same thing, but with this Untitled WebDev stream website. So one good thing about CSS and HTML and everything web related, and something that I think I already told you this, and I will repeat it like once and once again. Everything can be found on Google. It's not like you need someone like me or some other developer to like help you constantly. It's like, for example, if you want to make this image smaller, you can just go ahead and look for something like, for example, CSS, and let's say I want to change the width, so width. And Google will provide you with some help that will like for sure like make something stuff clear. So we have this website that is pretty popular called w3schools.com that has some examples about how to use width. In here, for example, it says auto, so maybe that does something, or 150px, okay, that's something that might mean something else, and so on and so forth. And if you scroll, you have like the whole explanation, like the width property sets the width of an element and whatnot. So I always push you to like go ahead and use Google, because it's like a super useful tool, and like the most senior of senior web developers, like the biggest developer you know, even the people that work at Google itself, people that works at Facebook and whatnot, they all use Google. It's not like as soon as you became an expert on web development, you have everything memorized. That's like the standard way of learning, like the thing that you learn at school that you need to memorize stuff. That's not the way we work. We work by having ideas and expressing them through code. So if you have an idea, you just need to look how to make it work with code. And what the experience you will gain over the years mainly is useful for you to like figure out stuff up. So for example, maybe you use this CSS property width in here, you just like copy it and paste it in here or something like that, for example like this. And with experience you learn that that will not work at all, because you need to actually specify what's the element being affected by this. So this is experience talking, but it's not like as soon as you become an expert on web development, you don't need Google at all or something like that. So in general, when you go to, for example, like an interview or something like that, in order to work on this is like, for example, working for a company that does web development or whatnot, you can filter good interviews of bad interviews in like the technical perspective when the developer interviewing you is more interested on the things that you memorize or the things that you figure out. So yeah, just like whatever. I went far off road in there, but whatever. So I want to change the size of this image. I previously showed you in that from this HTML perspective, you have this attribute called width that basically affects the width of this image, right? So we have this image logo SVG, and we have a width of 500 pixels. If I change this to, for example, I don't know, like 200 pixels, maybe it will look smaller, okay? But I want to, for example, let's say I want it to be of the width of the half of the screen. So if I change the width, it will always be the half of the screen. And right now I can't do that because this is expressed in pixels, right? And what I want is a percentage, basically. Like I want it to be half of the width of the screen, so that will be 50%, right? So to achieve that, we can first get rid of this property. That will, I think, make this smaller or bigger? Bigger, yeah, okay. And then we can go to the CSS file, and I explained this a little bit in the HTML stream, but basically you need to, the same as I specified this stuff for body, I need to specify some stuff for, you figure out, EMG. So let's EMG, that's an image, curly brackets, and in here I can paste that thing that I had copied for now with 150. So let's save this and refresh, and now it has that width. Now I say that I want it to be the half of the width of the screen. In order to achieve that, instead of doing this is basically the value 150, and px is the unit. It's like saying 100 yards or 100 meters or something like that. But these units are the units for CSS. So we have pixels in here. As you might figure out, I want percentage, and it's not like percentage or something like that. It's just like the percentage symbol, right? So with this, we are telling that we want this to be the width of 150. That will be super big for sure. Let's save and check. So yeah, this is the entire screen and a half more, right? This is not what we want. We want just half of the screen. So let's save it, refreshing here, and now effectively is the half of the screen. We can make sure of this by just like doing this and maybe opening the DevTools. And if I make this smaller, the logo changed size as soon as I changed the size of the viewport, the size of the browser, basically. So this is always the half of the screen. That's kind of okay for now. Now, I mentioned this, but I wanted to show you again because this is the one focused on CSS, and the previous one was supposedly focused on HTML, but I mentioned CSS. So the same way you can change properties in here by just doing like double click and changing them, or maybe the text content in here, double click and hello, and I can taste stuff like that. Refresh. So in here, I can click in here in the element that has some styles. And if we take a look to the right in here, we have the styles that have been applied to that element, okay? So in here we can see the width 50% we've set up. Let's say, for example, maybe I feel this is too big maybe on some displays. So I can just like double click in here, and with the down arrow, I can, or up arrow, I can change the value like just like so slowly in order to figure it out. Or maybe I can just like go ahead and input a value in here like, I don't know, 30%. Or I don't know, I want to go back to pixels, so I can go like 200 px. And as soon as you change it, you can see it on the left. So it's like super useful to work this way in order to don't have to do this workflow I was showing you of like changing something here, go back in here, refresh, and that's kind of tedious. So you can first check in here like, yeah, I will like maybe like 40%. That makes some kind of more sense for some reason. So yeah, I can now just like copy this value and go in here and paste it, and that's like saved. So now the default is 40. Okay. Now, the idea I had, the mock-up for this website was to make it like all centered, right? So I want to have this and this and this, everything like in the middle of the screen. So in order to achieve that, you need to use, there are several different techniques, and the thing is, like, if you go to Google and do something like center CSS, center elements CSS or something like that, you will get like a lot of different results, like horizontal and vertical line, what's this, and certain thing and stuff like that. And this is like, there are several different solutions because previously CSS was like kind of poor. It didn't have like as many solutions as it has right now in 2020. So if you want to like center stuff nowadays, it's super easy, but in the past it was super hard. And looking in Google for like a solution to center this, you might find out the old solution, and that is super tedious to do. So I will not tell you like, for this you need experience or something like that. It's more like, in order to actually find stuff new, you need to add a tree in here. So this tree in here is not a hack or anything like that. It's because from CSS3 and forward, like CSS3 is like a version of CSS. From CSS3 and forward, we had better solutions. So in general, if you just add a tree in here, you will find better solutions than if you just look for CSS. Okay. The solution in here, I know it already, but I will show you. So we need to change the way this is rendered. This is kind of like, it sounds like super hacky. I don't know how to express it better, but yeah. By default, the text is like the things are shown from left to right and from the top to the bottom, right? Like a normal, I don't know, like document. Yeah, so right on Hannah in there in the chat already is telling us that Flexbox is the best solution. It's the solution I will try to use. Hi Kesslers, thanks for following. So basically, if we want to center stuff, we need to use, we need to change the way the stuff is rendered. So we need to render this in the center of the screen instead of rendering from top to bottom, from left to right. How we do that? Okay, we have a property in here. We can test it in here in the browser, that is called display, right? Display is basically the way this is shown. There are like a lot of different ways of rendering, and if I like go through them, you can see that the website, it kind of changes in the left to different layouts because I'm changing the way it's displayed. So one of them, for example, is the one that I have in here, none. None is display none, so don't display it basically. So the page suddenly is blank because it doesn't have anything to show. So we need to actually use one that is called Flex for this. Flex is one of the kind of the latest. We have Flex and Grid are the two better solutions for this one, but let's just use Flex. Flex is one of the recent CSS changes, and that it basically allows you to create a container for your elements, so this title, this image, and these links, that adapts to the width and the height of your website. So effectively is flexing, right? It's not like flexing, it's more like flexing, like I don't know, like ruler or something like that. So let's go back to the code for 1 second. In order to actually make it work as expected, we need to have some kind of container for everything, because we need to make that container kind of work to like respond to the size of the browser, right? We could change the way the body itself is displayed, so display in here and just do flex in here, but that generally doesn't work as expected. It's generally better to have another container for that. I could like show you like how this looks, but you already can kind of notice that this is kind of broken right now. But the best solution is to have just a container for the elements in order to make them flex to the body. This is super complex, so I need to show you code at the same time in order to make it clearer. So first, as I say, we need a container. So we have the body, we have the elements. So let's put them in a container. That container, you could say like something like is like container attack. Container. Nope, this is not attack. I wish, but no. So one of the most commonly used ones is one that is called div, because it's like a division or a section of your website. So it's like div, let's put it /div, right? So now the elements on our website are inside a div container, right? But the thing is like it kind of looks awful to use a div. I don't know, like I prefer to use one that is called section. This is more clear for us, and it's more clear also for the browser and for the accessibility tools for people like that have like vision problems or something like that. So section is read by the browser and accessibility tools as a website section, so it's kind of clearer. If you use a div, this is completely ignored, so that's not good at all. So let's just use section in here for now. Okay, so let's refresh the website for now. And it should, and it is looking exactly the same for now because we didn't change anything. We just put all of elements, meaning the title, the image, and these two links inside a section, right? And that's the only change we made so far. We now want to make this section a flex container, meaning that we want it to be responsive to the width and the height of the website. So let's like, if we change it like this, it should like respond to that, right? So in order to achieve that, now we need to switch to CSS, right? So we have the image with width 40, that's okay. Let's go one in here below. So we have the body with this style for the body. We have image with this style for the image. So now we need section and the curly brackets. And in here we will put the styles that affect basically just this section container, right? Because I didn't put anything in here, it still doesn't do anything. So as I mentioned previously, display flex. This should change a little bit how things look, right? So now it's like, okay, everything looks kind of like in a line, but that's not what I want. So we want to change the way this is rendered. So we want this to be in top, this following, and these two to be just below that, right? So in order to achieve that, we have another property that you can look by yourself. It's like, I will always insist of this. I will show you, but you can look it by yourself every time. You can just go ahead and do something like CSS flex. How could this be? Direction? Yes, direction. So you can see the flex direction property, right? So in there you have all the details of what to do, but basically like I already know that I need to do flex direction, and in here I want row, I think it is, or column, one of those. Let's refresh, column, refresh, boop. Now we still have this section container being a flex container, but we changed this property flex direction to be column. So now every element is on top of the following element, right? So we have this first, this following, and these two following, right? So in here, if I change it to row, they are on rows, and if we change it to column, they are on a column. Okay, it's not like super complex, but maybe yes. So I just want to clarify, I don't know if there is someone new in the stream, but every time you find something that is like super confusing or is not clear at all, just feel free to interrupt me in the channel, just say like, what the fuck is that? And I will try to solve it for you, or try to give you like a solution. Or if I can't provide a solution, maybe it's like I don't have the answer, we can just like Google it together, or I can just like point you in the right direction or something like that. So feel free to like interrupt me at any time. So I want now, yeah, it's like everything is super pretty, like yeah, now everything is on top of the other like it was originally, so it's not like a super big change. But now I want this to be in the center of the website, because right now it's like in the top left and it looks horrible. So how we do that? We have two different properties for this. Because the flex container is flexing, we have a property to like basically set how the elements in the inside of that element are positioned. So if this flex to the width, for now the position is on the top left, but we want it to be on the center. So in order to achieve that, we have a property for the x-axis and the y-axis basically. So from left to right and from top to bottom, where should it be positioned? And we want both to be on the center, right? So to do that, we have align items is one of the two properties we should use, and this we can set, as you can see in here, to center. So now it's in the middle, but still it's like not in the middle vertically, just horizontally. To change the alignment horizontally, we need another one that is called justify content, if I remember correctly, and it's center as well. This is not changing at all, right? It's like it's looking the same, and I changed it in here. Why is that? This is because the actual container is just taking, like you can see when I hover over it, you can see that it's just like half of the screen. It should be the entire screen. So we need to change the height and the width of the section element in order to make it actually center the elements. So for now, let's just copy all this. You can, as you can see now, like if I click in here and select and press Ctrl+C for copy, I can copy the elements I tried out in the browser and just paste them in here. Save it, and now the changes are permanent, right? Now we need to change the width and the height, as I mentioned before. So if I set the height in here to be 100%, still doesn't look as I expect, because the width of the body itself is also short, because the body ends in here. So we wanted to take the entire screen. So in order to achieve that, this is kind of more complicated, but okay, let's do it. We have to set the height in here as well, and is 100% in here, or I need to show you? Yeah, I need to show you another unit. So I showed you before that you have px for pixels, you have percent for percent, and there are like a lot of other units, but for now I will show you one that is called view height. So let's copy this one and paste it in here, height, view height. So this unit as pixels or like as percentage it represents the view height. So the view is basically this black rectangle in here. So the view is like the entire canvas for the website. So it's like this section over here, everything in here is the view, right? And the H stands for height. So this is the view height. And in here you can put a percentage value of that. What does that mean? If we put 100, view width is like 100% of the view height, right? If I put in here, for example, 50, it will be 50% of the view height. If you use percentage directly in here, like height percentage doesn't know about the actual height of the view. So it's like, this percentage represents the percentage of the HTML element, but not the actual view, and we want to use 100% of the view. So if we set it to 100 VH, now the body takes the entire screen, right? Now we have a little issue right now. This is super common. I'm not showing you anything that is like just for this app. It's like a common issue, and it's that we now have this scroll bar in here. Sorry, my pronunciation sucks sometimes. So in here it's like, it sucks to have this. I don't want to have a scroll bar. Why do I have a scroll bar? That's because the body, by default, as you can see in here on the right, this is user agent style sheets. So this is the styles that comes with the browser, right? So by default, the body has a margin of 8 pixels. If you hover over this, you can see like some kind of like orange margin all over the website. That's the 8 pixels margin. So we want to get rid of this margin because we will not use it at all. And like, I think like we never use it at all. It's like every time I need to create a web app, I need to remove this margin, but whatever. So in here, we go to the body and we just do like margin 0, just 0. Like I don't want any margin at all. And if we refresh in here, suddenly the scroll bar disappears. That's because the body has the height of the entire website, 100 view height, but it doesn't have any kind of margins. So now it doesn't have like extra height that was added by the margin. So now we don't have any more scroll. So far so good. Back to our section container, we can do in here height 100%, and now it's completely centered. One question you could have, I had it when I was working with this, was basically, why do I need like 100 VH for the body, but the section can use percent instead, right? That's because, as I explained just a few minutes ago, when we use percentage, like in this case, we are referring to the percentage of the element that is on top of this. So if we say 100% in here, actually we are saying 100% of the height of the body, okay? But the body can't use directly percent in here, but because that will be the percent of HTML, so we need to set the height of the HTML as well, and that's super tedious. So instead, we said the body has the height of 100% view height, so the height of the view, and section has 100% of the body. So now we have this paired, okay? Now we are almost done, but at the same time this kind of looks weird, because when we make it small, it's okay to have like a percentage or whatever, but when we go like super big, it starts to like kind of break, right? It's like the links end up in here and the image is super big. So one property we could use in here, you can again Google this, I know this by memory, but you can Google it, is go in here, and we said we wanted 40%, right, of width, but at some point we wanted to stop, we wanted to make like being smaller. So how can we achieve that? Basically with a new property that is called max today width, and in here we set the maximum width value this will have. So we can experiment with this first in here, but just like clicking in here, and let's go to here. That's better. So in here we can add a new property by just clicking below the properties that are already defined. So boop, and in here max width, And we can experiment with, like, for example, 100 pixels maybe? No, that's super small. Let's make it 300 pixels, for example. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's the biggest size it will have. So we go back to max width, 300 pixels. Save, refresh. So now it has this width because the screen is super big, but if I go again to this view and try to make it smaller, it's like it starts reacting. So it stops at some point, and from there it keeps being the same size, but if I start like resizing this, it starts going smaller. So that kind of looks okay. Now, one other issue we could have, for example, is that if this is super small, the logo looks small, but the title keeps on being super big, and that looks awful again. So how can we make this respond to the size of the width? We use something that we just learned, but with other property. So first we need to point to H1, right? That's the title. So let's go in here and add H1. So in here we have a property that is called font size, if I remember correctly, maybe not. Yeah. So in here, for example, if I say something like 14 pixels and save it and go in here, now the font size is 14 pixels. That doesn't look like a title at all, but let's say it does, right? Now we want it to respond to the width of the website, because it's like when it gets smaller, it kind of looks awful. So how we achieve that? The same way we did view height, we can use another property that is view width. And you might have guessed it, but instead of using pixels in here, we use view width. This is a percentage of the width of the website. Let's say maybe, I don't know, 10. I don't know if this is super big or super small. That's super big, but it's already responding to the width, right? So now let's use a value that is not gigantic, so maybe 5. Refresh. Yeah, that kind of like looks okay. Yeah, let's maybe like inspect. 5. Let's try 4. Yeah, 4 looks okay. Now, if I hover over this, something similar to what when I hover body is happening. You can see that we see a blue rectangle around the text, but also an orange rectangle on the top and on the bottom. That's because, again, the browser has some default styles to it. That's why when we didn't have styles at all, we can check it just by removing this for a second and refreshing. When we don't have styles at all, this already is bold, is already a serif font, it already has a size and everything. So if we check the default styles in here, we can see that font weight is bold, margins and everything. So it already has some default styles and we don't want that. So let's refresh there. So I want to remove that margin because I want it to be closer, a little bit closer to my image, right? So in order to remove that, similar to what we did with the body, we can just copy this and paste it in here. So now we have margin 0. If we refresh, now it's closer because it doesn't have those margins anymore. If I hover over it, you can see now that it only has that blue rectangle because it doesn't have the orange ones. The orange rectangles basically just represent the margin of the element you are hovering or selecting in here. So now it doesn't have any because I changed the margin to 0. If I remove this, you can like toggle it by just doing this, you can see that the image goes away because without it, it has the default margins, and with this it has margin 0, so it looks kind of better. So far so good. We have something kind of similar to the idea we mocked up at the beginning, right? So we have the title, the logo in here, and the links. The links are looking disgusting right now. So we want them to be side by side, have like a little like line separating them, and being white instead of like these blue and purple default colors that suck so hard. So we can work on the links by just like we have the A, so we can do something like A here, open brackets, and again we can do something like this. So let's copy this and paste it in here. One thing that could come to mind, these are the kind of doubts that I should tackle, and they occur to me when I start working. So one doubt that you could have is that why, if you set the color of the body, meaning the color of everything inside the body to be white, the links are still blue and purple? That's again similar to what happened to the body and with the title. Basically, default size. By default, the browsers show links that you didn't visit as blue, links that you visit as purple, and every link should be underlined. So those are like the default styles that come with the browser. So in order to change them, you need to actually go ahead and change them directly on the link, because the styles for this are overwriting the styles for the entire body. That's kind of complex. You can like interrupt me at any point again. So in here I change it to be color white, right? So if we refresh, we should see, yeah, the links are now white. That kind of looks better, far better. So we now need to make it a little bit bigger, because this text kind of looks oval, and put them side by side, right? We have an issue right now. In order to put them side by side, it's kind of difficult, because right now they both are inside this flex container we created. The flex container is making everything be one in top of the other and everything centered. So how can we make these two be side by side? In order to achieve that, we need to use other container just for those links. Why is that? Because if we try to change the way these two are looking, like to put them one besides the other, we will affect everything. So we don't want to change the way the image looks or the H1 looks, just these two links, right? So again, you could use a div element and put both links inside that element that is super commonly used. If you go to like, maybe let's go to like the good Twitter example, and let's open the source in here. If I look for divs in here, yeah, there are several, right? Yeah, div, that, because it's like super common to use that element to wrap stuff, or to like use div as a container. But in here, we can use again something similar to section that has some semantic meaning for the browser or for accessibility tools. We could use another one similar to this one that is called nav. Basically, this is read by the browser and accessibility tools as a navigation, and that's what we want, because this is actually the navigation of our website, right? It has some links, so it's the nav. We can refresh, and now they appear side by side. Why is that? Because by default, nav is just a container that, like any other container, reads from top to right, from left to right, from top to bottom. So like any text document. So inside nav, links look just normal, like one besides the other. But nav is now a children, that's called like is inside of, is a way of telling an element is inside another, so it's a children, but whatever. So this nav element is a children of this section element, the container that we are using to have flex layout, right? So we have h1 is being affected by the flexing of the container, the image is being affected by that, and the nav is being affected by that. But the things that are inside the nav aren't affected at all, so we can do whatever we want with them. What we want is to have them have like a little line right now in the middle of them. So one way you could do that, and it's pretty like boring, is to do like just like the line character, like the pipe character, and just like let's refresh and yeah, it's already working or whatever, but it's kind of boring, right? We could achieve the same thing with CSS, because basically this is like this is a visual thing that we want. So doing this from HTML works, but it's like works, right? It's like, it's not like the intended use of this character is to be used as a character, not as a separation of links. So in order to have an actual line between those, we need to use styles, because it's something visual. So let's get rid of this. So again, you could go ahead to Google and look for how to create a line on the, I don't know, like let's say the right of an element, right? But I already know this, so I can like save you the trouble. There is a CSS property that is called border, and border lets you set up like a border around an element. So for example, if I say like this will be kind of quick, but whatever, so like 2 pixels solid, let's make it pink for now. So now, as you can see, this is kind of disgusting, but whatever, that pink doesn't work, let's make it like red, like yeah, super, yeah. So this kind of looks like this is not what we want, right? We want to have just a border in the right. What I did in here with this border property is that in CSS there are some properties, like for example border, that differ from color, for example, or margin, because they take like several different values, right? So if I hover over this, we can see that the code editor is already helping us and is telling us that border is taking the line width, so the width of the lines, the line style, I will go with that in just a minute, and the color. So let's open the DevTools again and select this. So we have in here the styles for that link, right? So if I go to the red in here and change it to blue, it changes the color of the border, so that makes sense. This solid property is because you can have, for example, something like dashed. Let's go back to red because that looks better. And now the line is dashed instead of being solid. Or I think there is like another one that is like dotted. No, well, dash, whatever. So that's dash or solid, for example. So that's the border style, right? And then we have the border width, and this is basically, if I increment it, is like the width of the border. We should keep it like this, right? Looks kind of sick. Nah, I'm joking. So we can make it as small as 1 pixel or as big as you need. But still, this doesn't look kind of right? It's like, I just want a border on the right of the Twitch or on the left of YouTube playlist, but not like in everyone, no? It's like, wow. So how we can achieve that? Okay, is kind of easy, but not so much. So you have this border, you can, instead of just doing border, you can do border hyphen, I think is right, border right. And again, we can say, like, for example, 2 pixels, maybe, solid, and white. Now, if I refresh, they both have a border on the right right? We have two problems right now with this. First, that we have the border on the two, like on Twitch and on YouTube playlist, and we want it to be just like between the two, not like in everyone. So this one shouldn't be in here. The second problem we have is that there is no space in here. It looks like awful because it's like super just next to it and it doesn't look good at all. So in order to fix the two, we will start with the simplest one, that is the spacing. So the spacing is just achieved by using a property that is called padding. Padding. I can't write today. So let's say I don't know, 16 pixels, let's say for now. Refresh. So now we have some kind of separation, but at the same time the line is super big right now. Why is that? That's because I messed with the property called padding. Padding is basically like margin, but inwards instead of outwards. What I mean with this is that you have margin to separate one element from the elements surrounding them. So, for example, if we go to the H1 in here, and we set margin to be, I don't know, 20 pixels, right? If I make this bigger, the rest of the elements go away from it. That's the margin, right? Because it's like the separation between this element and the elements around it. So it makes them go away from it. It's like let's put like 6 feet in here in order to be like actually be safe of the like the COVID or whatever. But yeah, so for now let's keep the margin 0. Now we added a padding of 16 pixels to every anchor, right? Every link on our website. But the padding differs from the margin in the meaning that spacing is not outwards, so it's not like from the element to the outside. The padding is from the element to the inside. And because of that, the border is affected by that. You can see it better if you instead of just using border right, you just use border. So now we can see that the border is super like separated from the element, and if we reduce the padding, it comes closer, right? If we, instead of incrementing the padding, we increment the margin, they go away from each other, but they don't affect the border or the like, because basically they are going away from other elements, no expanding inside. It's like, it's super hard to explain, but so yeah, basically you have, as you can see in the graphic below, you have the element, the padding, the border, so now that the border of pixels, and then the margin, right? That's like all the layers of separation you can use. So let's refresh this. That's why, because I set the padding to be 16 pixels, it affected also the height of the border, because now it has padding to the top and the bottom as well. So in order to make the height of the line smaller, we can, instead of using padding, just use padding right, same as border right. So now it's separated from the line is separated from the element, but it doesn't have that like gigantic height, right? Now, as I mentioned before, in order to separate this line from the next item, we should use margin instead, because that's the spacing for outwards instead of inwards. So in here we can put like 16 pixels again. So we have 16 pixels the line and 16 pixels again, right? So now kind of looks okay, but we still have this problem of having the same line in here, and we don't want that, right? So let's for now copy this and paste it in here. Save it. Okay, now it's saved. One change I want to do before going forward is just to font size, change the font size to be a little bigger, maybe like 4 view width, in order to match the logo, because like the logo is 5, so let's make the links 3, not 2, 3, look at 3, maybe. Yeah, that kind of looks better. So because we are using view width now, it's better to use the same unit for the padding, the margin, and the border. Because if not, when we are going small, the padding and the margin keep being the same, but the text is like smaller. And if we go super big, again the padding and the margin are the same, but the text is super big. So in order to make this line respond as well, we can use also like 1 view width maybe, and in here I don't know, 2 view width and 2 view width. Maybe it's super big, but let's not that, maybe like we can use a fractional numbers in here, so 0.5 for example is a valid value. So that kind of looks okay. We are almost there, but we want to get rid of this. I did this kind of on purpose because I wanted to show you something else. I'm touching just like the surface of CSS. One problem you can find is that sometimes you have more than one element that is exactly the same. So in this case, we have 2 anchors, right? So if, for example, we want to have one anchor with some styles, meaning we want this anchor to have this line, and some anchors without it, like for example this, how can we achieve that? So far, we use the name of the tags, so for example, body, image, section, h1 or a, in order to affect the styles of everything on the site that matches this. But the meaning behind that is that basically everything that matches this, meaning this A and this A, are both affected by these styles. And we actually don't want that. We want one of the links to be to have that line on the right, and the other one shouldn't have that. So we need to have some kind of way of differentiating one from the other. There are like lots of ways of achieving this. I will show you just a few. But the first one will be to introduce something new to HTML. I think I already said this on the first or the second stream, but I will have this tendency to circle back to the previous streams, meaning that I will give you, for example, in the past stream, I gave you the basics of HTML. Today, I'm talking about CSS, but still, I will keep on like teaching you or showing you more like it. I will keep on showing the stuff about HTML because CSS has some stuff that is super related and is built on top of the HTML. So we keep on learning stuff on HTML. And when we reach the point to learn about JavaScript, we will still keep on learning stuff about CSS and HTML because that again works on top of the other two. So yeah, it's like some kind of like an onion or something like that. It's like layers upon layers of stuff. But yeah, so we need to go back to HTML for a second. We need to find a way of differentiating this Twitch link from this YouTube playlist link. Visually, from the developer perspective, they are different because they have different text, they have different links, so they are different. But from the CSS perspective, because we use this A selector, we are basically telling it to use to affect every anchor in the website, and we want to affect just one for now. So, in order to achieve that, we can use one of these. One is the class attribute. This is the one that I recommend the most. The class attribute can be added to to any element. So we can have it in here or in the image or whatever. You can use it in any element. And in here, you can put any kind of like word that you want. They have some kind of like a format that is recommended that is called a kebab case. Basically writing like this, like if I want to write hello world, instead of writing it like this, you write it like this, like hello hyphen world. This is like the most common the most common way of writing class names, but don't say. So in here, for example, we could say something like first, this makes sense, or maybe we could say something like Twitch. Okay, because this is kind of like a name that I came up with, but in here you can put any word you want, and the preferred approach with it will be to use kebab case, as I mentioned. Kebab case is, for example, if I want to say Twitch link, I don't write Twitch link, I write Twitch link with a hyphen in the middle, right? But let's just use Twitch because it's shorter and sweeter. So this didn't make any kind of change at all, right? It's just like it keeps on looking the same, the links are looking the same, the code changed a little bit. In here we have this Twitch thing in here, but besides that everything looks the same, right? The thing with the class in here is that it's useful to CSS in particular, because now we have a way of telling CSS do this, apply this style or whatever to this particular class. Okay, so we have this anchor in here, this A, but we want this border and this padding and this margin to all be just for the Twitch link, right? So to achieve that, instead of writing like Twitch or something like that, Twitch, this will not work because this is expecting like the code editor is sorry, I just noticed that my camera is like blocking there. So if I hover over this, you can see that this is assuming that we are talking about a Twitch element. The same happen if I hover over here, is like an 8 element, and this is not what we want. This is not what we want. It's not an Twitch element, it's an anchor with the Twitch class, right? So in order to actually say to CSS we are talking about a class, we need to add a dot in here. It's just that. It's like this will get more complicated with time, but just go by step, right? So this dot is actually now telling CSS that we want to apply some styles to something that has the class Twitch, as the code editor is now showing us. So it's any element, not just anchors, whatever thing that has the Twitch class on it, right? So if I now move this here with some luck and refresh, now the line is just showing for the Twitch and not for this one, right? As you can notice, this is still applying. It's not that because we added Twitch and we added styles for this Twitch link, these are omitted. It's something similar to what happens with the styles that comes with the browser. Basically, you already said to CSS that you want these styles to every anchor, so that's applied first. Every anchor has those styles, and then you said if you have this class named Twitch, add these styles, right? So now we have both being white, both being of 3 view width in size, but only the Twitch one has these styles, right? You might have a problem. For example, this could happen that maybe I'm adding like this not like class, and in here Twitch. We might find a scenario, or we could find this scenario in which we have the same class for this anchor, and for this title, right? Let's say that this is the title for the Twitch section or whatever. The issue with this now is that if we refresh, now the title has that line as well, but we don't want that. We want that line to only be present on the Twitch link, right? So how can we specify from the CSS perspective that this only affects links? So in order to achieve that, we go to hello CSS again, and in here, instead of just telling the CSS I want every element of class Twitch to have this, we can say a.twitch. If we hover over this now, we are telling CSS that we want every anchor with the class Twitch to have these styles. So now if we refresh, even if h1 has the same class name, it is not affect at all by the styles of this because it's not an A, this is an h1. So if we wanted to switch it and affect only the h1, we could do h1 in here instead of a.twitch. So this means this tag name with this class name, save, and now Twitch went back to normal and the only one affected is the title. This is not what we want, but I wanted to show you. So let's go back to a.twitch. So now we have Untitled WebDev stream, the logo and the links. This is kind of looking sick. Maybe I will publish it or something. Well, so let's now add something else in here. What else could be improved? Let's say if I click on Twitch, this could be improved greatly. So one thing that generally annoys me a lot is when a website has a link like Twitch, for example, or YouTube playlist in here that points to some other website. For example, if you are on Facebook and you click on a link to YouTube, it should always open on a new window, because if not, that kind of feels weird for the user. It's like if I click on Twitch, I'm expecting to open a new window with Twitch, not to actually replace the website I'm on, right? It's kind of like rude to like replace the website you are on. It's like kind of better to open it on the side. So I showed you this earlier on the HTML stream, but you can do like target blank in here. What does this means is basically like open this link in this target, in this place, and blank means in a new browser. So if we refresh and we click on YouTube, it opens now a new window. That's like better. This is kind of circling back to HTML again, sorry. We instead of like adding this target blank to every link, which is kind of annoying, you could just use a tag that is specified on the head of the element called base, if I remember correctly. Yeah, base. So in here you can specify the basis for every link on your website. If you specify, for example, in here like href, and you say like something like https google.com or something like that, every link in here, for example, if I say derp or whatever in here, this link will actually be google.com/derp or whatever. So that's like this base. But I don't want to change the href. I want to set the target for every link. So I just like click here, paste in here, and we can get rid of all the targets because now all links are affected by this base. So again, refresh, and this opens in a new window because base is now of a target blank. So basically the base of every link is opening in a new window. So let's go back to CSS. One extra thing I want to show you is this is looking fine, right, visually, but it has a kind of like a problem, at least from my point of view, and that's that why is the line that is separating Twitch from YouTube clickable? I don't want that. It's like if I click on this line, it should like nothing should happen, but if I click on it, Twitch is opening, because if I go and inspect it, the line that we added, this border, is actually part of the link. So as you can see, everything, the margin, the padding, and the line are all part of the link. So that kind of like is awful, right? It's like I don't want this to be clickable. So you could do one of two things. One could be to use what is called a pseudo element, and I will not go to that down that route today. That's basically like from CSS you create HTML elements. That's like not what I want to do right now. And the other approach will be to have these two in some kind of like a list. I will show you in like a minute, and then add these styles to having like a line to that element instead of the link. So what I mean with this is, first let's make it a list of links. This is a new element, I will explain it in a minute, just wait. So we have a navigation, right? That was the wrapper for our links. And now we have this UL element. UL again is one of many abbreviations HTML has. It comes from unorganized list, I think it is, or something like that, but it's like a list that doesn't have any kind of organization. Meaning that, let's leave first in here, doop, doop, and another link here, boop, boop. There we go. So this kind of list, right? So the list that don't have any kind of order. What I mean with order is that if we switch this UL to be OL is the organized list, and we save it, it shows like 1, 2, because that's organized, right? And we don't want that. For now we want it to be a UL. So UL there. Now this kind of like is not looking like we want, right? So this is like to go deeper into the CSS hole. So in like the structure of HTML, this kind of makes sense because we have a navigation that has a list of links, and every element is means list item. So we have this list item with Twitch and this list item with the YouTube playlist. Code-wise, from the HTML perspective, this makes sense. It's okay, but from the visual perspective, this is not looking like we want. So we could check UL first, and we see like a lot of styles that come with it, like display block and list style type, this and all this stuff that we don't want actually. And list also have this list style type or whatever. So we need to, I think it was, yeah, let's go to UL. So hello, let's go here, UL. First, this is displaying as block, and we don't want that. We want it to be flex, like the container, right? So let's go display flex, save, refresh. Okay, that's looking kind of better, but still has that oval style. So let's do list style none, and refresh, and we don't have that point anymore. Okay, now it kind of looks like previously, but it has like some margin and some paddings that we don't want. So let's go like margin 0. Yep. Boop. Now it's closer, kind of looks better, still kind of weird. Does it have a padding as well? It has a padding, so let's padding 0. There. Now looks kind of better, but still we have this the previous mentioned issue. Now how we solve this? Basically the because now we want to change not the actual link, but we want to add that line to the list element, right? So let's copy this and paste it in here. On the right route, but still lacking. So now the link is clickable, that's okay. And if we stop hovering the link, now it's not more like the spacing between these elements is not more clickable, right? So yay. But now we have again the problem of having this duplicated thing. So we solve it the same way we did before. We just do class switch and we move it here. And we can do something like, instead of li, we can do li.twitch. That will be the list it item which has the class twitch. And if we refresh, now we have the separation between the elements that are inside the list that look okay, and the separation is not longer clickable. So that's like better UX or user experience. So what else can I show you? Maybe a way of doing this cleaner? Yeah, we could. Well, let's get rid of this class that I put in here just to show you. So let's say you have 30 items in here. Instead of just having like Twitch and YouTube playlist, you have like I don't know, like 30 links, 30 different links. Like it happens like when you go to my website that has like, I don't know how many already, like 12 or so. Well, let's say you have like a lot of links in here. It wouldn't make any like a lot of sense to have like this class in every one of those, right? It's like tedious. So one way of approaching this, let's get rid of this for now and refresh. Now we don't have any kind of separation. For now let's do it duplicated. Okay, so one way of working with this is using what is called the pseudo selectors. I think it was the technical name, but basically it's like I already showed you that you can use a tag name in here in order to say affect every element that has this tag name, right? Basically, so every image will have these styles, every section will have these styles, every h1, yeah, and so on and so forth, right? And I already showed you as well that if you do like .twitch or whatever, this basically affects every element with the tag name li and the class name whatever. So there are more tools that at our disposal from the CSS perspective that allows us to be more specific about what element we want to select, like what element we want to affect or change with our styles, right? So right now what we want is to for this list of links to affect only the first element. So we could go to like Google and type CSS first child or first element or whatever, and we have this CSS first child selector. If we just do colon first child and do whatever in here, like I don't know, color red, let's say, this will affect the first child at all levels. So that's not what we want. It's similar to what happened when we did the .twitch and we have several items with the same class name, right? So it affects everything and we don't want that. We want to just affect the first li inside this UL, right? So we can, for example, do like li first child. This basically means the first element inside the lead. In here, the VS Code is not of any help. It's like this suggestion in here doesn't show at all what is happening, but it's basically like the first element, the first li element. So if we refresh now, what is now? Oh, okay. That makes sense. The color is being set in the answer. So let's get rid of this and put it in here for now. Nope, What is happening? Oh, I already know. Doop. So this is when CSS starts getting difficult or annoying. Yeah, let's say that. So the issue with this is that we are telling the browser, and it's correct, that this li element should be red, and it's okay with it. The browser is taking consideration into that. But as soon as we reach the A, in here we said that we want all A's or all anchors to be white. So this style has more importance, or is more direct, sorta, than this one. What I mean by that is that if, for example, I add some text in here, like some text, let's that text is looking fine, is red as I specified, and is affecting just the first element. If we, for example, add some more text in here, that some more text is white, just the first one, meaning this first li element, is affected. But the problem with CSS, not the problem, I mean the way CSS works is that if you are super specific, if you say, for example, this element in particular, for example, an anchor with this class name, that style is the one that is being taken by the browser, and the styles that are less specific, like for example saying all the anchors, are ignored. So to be more clear with that, let's go and do that same example, like class Twitch, right? So in here we have refresh. In here we have a style that is telling the browser that every anchor should be white, right? So if we do a.twitch, I can't write today, gosh. And in here we say color, yeah, let's keep on using red. Now this is affected, but this doesn't. And even if we said that we want all anchors to be white, so in here we can see that in here and in here you can see that we said color white to all links, right? When we reach this point in which we have this anchor that is of class Twitch, we already specifying here, and this is more specific than this one, because this is all anchors, and this is only the anchor that has the class Twitch, so this is more specific. Because we were more specific, the browser say, okay, I will ignore this color white and I will take the color red instead. So we have this duplication of styles, and the styles that are taken by the browser are the ones that are more specific, right? Why I explain all this? Because when I tried to let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of this. Refresh, refresh. When I tried to in here said I want to like the first li element to be of color red, that affects, yeah, the li, but anchor is more specific, so this white color is overwriting the color red, as you can see in the bottom in here. Like color red is striken out, and we take only the white in here. So in order to make the first anchor inside this li element to be red, you could think something like, okay, just change li to a, right? And that should work. That doesn't work. That makes everything red, because this a element now is the first child of this li, and this anchor is the first li of this, so the first child of this li, so that doesn't work. In order to make it work, we need to say, use it like this. This in CSS means like when you use spaces, like to separate one thing from the other. Basically this means the A that is inside, so this like space in here basically means inside. You read it from right to left, sorta. So like the anchor that is inside, space inside, the li that is the first child. So if we now refresh, this should look okay. Now, get it? So far, so good. So that's all fine and dandy, but the thing is, like, I just wanted to show you this, but the thing is, like, the issue we have right now is not with color, is with the separation. So for that, it's good enough to just like get rid of this and move these styles to here. So now we are saying we want the first child li, so we have li first child, this is the second child, so the first child of this UL. We wanted to have this border right, this padding, and this margin. So with some luck, if we refresh, now we have Twitch, the separation that is not clickable, and YouTube playlist. Good thing about this approach, like the good thing about this approach of having the nav with the links and the UL and whatnot, is that if, for example, this will not happen often, but let's say that the styles don't load at all or something like that, so let's remove them. The website still makes sense structurally, meaning that the HTML and the structure of the website, without any kind of styles or visually pleasing stuff, still kind of works. I mean, this image looks like super big, so we could like add some width in here in order to not look big when styles don't load or something. So that 200 maybe there. So the website looks like the first one we did in the HTML stream. So we have like the title, an image, and 2 links, and it makes sense. It's like a list of links and the title or whatever. And when we add CSS to the mix, this suddenly looks like super pleasing and beautiful and whatnot. And it's responsive to the width of the browser, and so I think that this doesn't happen if you don't have CSS at all. So maybe one little last thing, we could like set up a more beautiful background. Maybe, yeah, let's do that. So far I just show you how to set color for stuff. So for example, background color is black, and if we put like pink in here, it will look oval. But let's do it like so pink. Yeah, girl. So yeah. I actually love pink. Just so you know, that's why I picked those colors for the logo. But yeah. So I previously showed you when I was moving files that I have this logo in here, but I also saved this background because I wanted to use it in here. So we could try to use it, right? Let's say I didn't try this, so it might look oval. Let's just try it. So we have a property similar to background color, but as you can try to figure out, it's like background image. And you might say like, well, okay, in here you put like just like how it is called, background PNG. Let's copy this background PNG, and it works, right? And it's like this is already telling us that it doesn't, but let's show it. Like we refresh and nothing is happening. And in here, if I hover this invalid property value, so it's already, the browser is already trying to help us. It's like, yeah, the value you sent in there is not valid at all. So in CSS, this is kind of like annoying, but this is how it works. In order to actually specify this, you need to use URL, and between parentheses, you put the name of the file you want, so background PNG. So with some luck in here, yay, we have the pluses in the background. It doesn't look as good as I expected, but whatever is like happening. So you have a lot of control over this. We could like spend hours seeing stuff like, for example, you can change the way the background is rendered. So for example, background repeat, and you could say like no repeat, and that will make it to just be 1. Or you could set it to be like repeat X, for example, and it only repeats on the XY axis. And you have like a lot of control over that. You could also apply filters to the background to be blurry, for example, or you could have several background images at the same time and mix them together. But like that will be like spending a lot of time on stuff that I could help you if you have the question later or anything like that, but I just wanted to go like with the basics of CSS, basically to just show you some of the syntax we will be seeing. For sure, like let me assure you that when we see, like for example, we could like see some JavaScript later, but yeah, when we start working with JavaScript, we will keep on seeing stuff related to CSS and HTML, because as I mentioned before, CSS kind of like controls the way the HTML looks, and JavaScript controls how everything behaves. So from JavaScript you can update change the HTML, you can change the CSS, so you need to know both HTML and CSS in order to go to JavaScript. But with the basics, you are more than okay to like start working or doing something. As you can see, like this is like 44 lines of code, and the vast majority of things in here I just like look them up on Google, and you can do the same. So for example, some of the things I mentioned, if you want to change this to blurry, you can do like CSS, remember the 3 in order to have some good stuff, background filter blur, for example, or something like that. In here we get like the backdrop filter CSS, so okay, that might be the thing that I'm looking for. And in here you have like this is an article explaining how it works. So this, for example, makes it so your container blurs the background, and that looks super pleasing. But yeah, basically CSS and HTML are like the two like basic cornerstones of a website. You could just go ahead and publish a website like this without the plus signs in the background, because they are making me like dizzy already. So you could like go ahead and publish something like this, and it already works. Imagine, for example, if you have like a band, right, or something like that, you could have like the name of your band in here with some like font like that you like, the logo of your band, and the links, and that's pretty okay. Like you don't need any JavaScript or anything like that in order to make that work. And also worth mentioning, there are some people that just work and like in development in companies like the one I'm working right now, that just work doing HTML and CSS and never touch anything JavaScript related. They just do like HTML and CSS, and that's pretty okay. And those are simple enough that you can like achieve to do this with just like 43 lines in here and 13 here, like 30 lines of HTML and 43 lines of CSS, and you have like a pretty good or good enough website. Still a website. If you want to go the route that I will continue to go do in the following streams, that to construct an actual web app, then you need more. Then you need like JavaScript and all that stuff. But for a website that will only present some links and some images and stuff like that, you are pretty okay with this. And every doubt you have, you could ask me. I don't have any kind of problem with that. But you can also just like Google it by yourself. I will always push people to just Google it like several times. Let's switch to for a second to like for reals camera. So let's go for reals. Several times people ask me where should I start, or like how can I do this or how can I do that. Like my first response like to the first question, like how can I start, or how can I get into web development, is just start with the basics. Start with HTML and CSS, and maybe I send them like, I don't know, like a YouTube tutorial or something like that. Maybe next time I will send them this video itself. And send them some like links like the W3 schools that I show you today, that has some useful explanations about HTML or CSS. But what I always do is like basically when they have a specific question, like for example, hey, how can I make this text bigger on my website or something like that, it's like, it's not that I'm being like a troll or something like that when I say like you could Google it or Google it like this. It's more like I'm telling them what I will do in their place. If I have a question like, how can I make a text big in CSS? I just type exactly that on Google. I just go to Google and say like, how can I make the text big with CSS, or CSS3 plus text big, or something like that? And I get like a lot of responses, and one tip I could give you, it's not like such a big tip with CSS, it's just not don't just go to the first link and like get that response as the correct one. Just compare some responses, go to like the first, the second, and the third results you get on Google, and try to compare them and see like which one looks better, or which one has less code to write, or stuff like that. And with that you could like have a response, because if I give you the response myself, I maybe know the response by memory and just give it to you. But like the vast majority of times I will just like, yeah, give me a second, and then Google it and send you the result. So it's just better to teach you to Google yourself, and just about shun the middleman, sort of. So like you don't need me for stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know if I should switch to like, yeah, let's go to like the camera again, to the code again. So yeah, basically we have CSS in here, HTML in here, and I guess like that should cover the basics of CSS. I mean, we have a lot of other pseudo selectors, like first child, there are like last child and nth child and stuff like that, that are useful for selecting specific stuff, but we will see that later when we start working on like a web app with JavaScript. We also have something that is called an ID selector, that is like, I not recommend it at all, so I will not even talk about it. And we will find some other issues, like the one I found today, trying to change the color of the first link, about specificity on CSS. But I think once I'm done with JavaScript, once I talk about JavaScript and all that, before talking about libraries and stuff like that, I might dedicate like an entire stream to just talk about the interview process when you go to like when you want to work as a web developer, not when you want to just create a website for your own or for your app project. When you want to work as a web developer, about the entire like process of interviewing, both like the human resources interview and the technical interview, and what that implies, and what are like the most common kind of questions and stuff like that. I will try to talk about that, because I know there are lots of people that are not just looking for a job, but also they are kind of like nervous about that process, and it's like far easier than it seems. So yeah, I might tackle that after we talk about JavaScript. But let's switch to the thanks, I guess. Yeah, you can check again the first stream that is already on YouTube, where I talk about Visual Studio Code and Chrome. If you saw anything today that was kind of like weird, or you didn't get it at all, you can see the second one, where I talk about HTML specifically, and just a little bit about CSS. And this same video will be up on YouTube later today, and you can see it, and you can either add questions in there in the comment section on YouTube, or you can ping me directly, or on any of the social media I am present. You can go to luxiro.me, that's the website that is just now in the screen, where I have the websites or the social media where I'm most present. But yeah, don't be afraid of asking anything. I'm always up to help out people that is like willing to learn something new about web development in general. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching as always, and I see you next Sunday.